world cannot afford allowing the Iranians to get nuclear weapons. But there's two targets that the U.S. and Israel have to look at. Take out the source of their funding, which would be their refineries. Target number two, take out their nuclear sites. Now, the Israelis have already proven they can get past their air defenses. These facilities, according to all the intelligence that is in the public domain, are deeply buried underground. That likely means they'll need bunker buster bombs, and they'll need some American support.
Fox News' Sean Hannity called for the United States to go to war with Iran, bomb Iran's oil refineries, go after its nuclear sites. We can't let Iran develop a nuclear weapon. Well, there was actually a deal in place to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. I mean, Israel didn't like the Iran nuclear deal because, it kind of robbed the Israeli government of the one reason that they were using to push the United States military to engage in a hot war with Iran. So Donald Trump came in his first term, ripped up the Iran nuclear deal, thus paving the way for Iran to enrich uranium and build a nuclear weapon. That was Donald Trump's fault. But he created an environment in which now you have boneheads like Sean Hannity calling for us to risk our troops potentially, for us to spend our hard-earned tax dollars on fighting a war on behalf of Israel, a foreign government. That is what's happening right now. And by the way, if you think that the only problem here is that your resources are going to be spent on a war that we shouldn't be involved in, just keep in mind that if the United States bombs oil refineries in Iran, well, that diminishes the oil supply on the global market. China relies on Iran for their energy. And if they can't get their energy from Iran because the US has bombed their oil refineries, well, they're going to rely on what's left in the international market and find their oil elsewhere, thus limiting the supply for everyone else, increasing the cost of oil, increasing the price of gas at the gas pump, increasing the price of everything because obviously it's going to be more expensive to transport goods. So insult to injury, isn't that great? Unfortunately, President Trump appears to be siding with Hannity. Meanwhile, Hannity's former colleague, Tucker Carlson, is trying to keep Donald Trump from making a disastrous mistake. We're going to get back to Tucker in just a moment. But first, let's explain what the Trump administration is up to. As we reported yesterday, the Trump administration launched strikes against Houthis in Yemen over the weekend. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz stated that Houthi leaders were targeted and killed in these strikes. Now, remember, Houthi rebels are retaliating against the United States and Israel over the blockade of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, over the slaughter of tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip. You could, rein in Israel so they stop slaughtering innocent people, but we can't have that because, our politicians are bribed to do whatever Israel wants them to do. So yesterday, the Pentagon stated that the attacks will continue in the coming days until we achieve the president's objectives. Great. In addition, a Pentagon spokesperson refused to rule out military action against Iran, stating, "We know who the enemies of this country are." No, hold on. Enemies of this country, meaning the United States? Nah. This is all about protecting a foreign government. Okay, Iran does not pose a threat to Americans on US soil. I want to be clear about that. But let me read the rest of the statement from Sean Parnell, who wants you to think that we're going to fight a hot war with Iran on behalf of the American people. He says, Iran consists of enemies of a free world, and President Trump has put them on notice. Okay, great. Well, Trump knows who, funds his campaigns, Miriam Adelson being one of them. He also stated that Iran will be held responsible for the actions of the Houthis, but the Houthis have no intention of slowing down their attacks. According to their foreign minister, who told Reuters, there will be no talk of any dialing down of operations before ending the aid blockade in Gaza. The Houthis have been very clear. We are only attacking because of what's being done to the Palestinian people, because of the blockade of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. When there was a ceasefire, they stopped their attacks. So there is a diplomatic and peaceful way to stop the bloodshed, to stop this from escalating into a full-blown war. But, Israel's got no interest in that. They continue. Now we see that Yemen is at war with the United States, and that means that we have the right to defend ourselves with all possible means. So escalation is likely. That's from the foreign minister of the Houthis. And there are even more concerning updates to this story. This is from Ken Klippenstein, drawing attention to something that everyone has been distracted away from. On February 28th, the US military announced that 2 B-52 heavy bombers flying from an undisclosed location in the Middle East, which I can report is the country of Qatar, dropped bombs on another undisclosed location, Iraq. The message wasn't lost on neighboring Iran, whose state media warned that the B-52s are nuclear-capable bombers carrying a message whose recipient was clear as day, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Then, they're not done yet. Then on March 9th, the second bomber demonstration was made. US B-52s flew alongside Israeli fighter jets on long-range missions, practicing aerial refueling and joint operations. Again, the American press missed the story, though not the Israeli press, which correctly reported the real purpose of the operation, readying the Israeli military for a potential joint strike with the US on Iran. So before we get to Tucker Carlson, Waz, how many wars are we going to fight on behalf of Israel? That's what I want to know. Iraq being one of them. Now you have the Houthis in Yemen. How many more?
It's kind of crazy, and I think it's important for listeners to be reminded of the sort of, platform, if you will, Trump rode in on in 2016. He was killing the neocons. He was killing Jeb Bush. He was killing the war in Iraq. He was killing the persecution of the war in Afghanistan. He famously mentioned that George Bush didn't keep us safe on 9/11. We got attacked under his watch. They killed U.S. adventurism abroad. That was his whole thing. And now, and I would argue that's part of what separated him from that field of neocon idiots. And now basically the neocons are ascendant again in the Trump 2.0 administration, where it's all right, not only are we blowing up this deal between Israel and Hamas and the Palestinian folks, let's find a new target. Let's pretend that the Houthis are somehow the same as the Iranians, because the Iranians give them weapons. By that calculation, aren't we the same as the Israelis? Aren't we the same as the Ukrainians? Couldn't Russia just come out and be like, wait a second, you guys are giving the Ukrainians the weapons they use to bomb us? It makes absolutely no sense, except for the context of Israel wants us to do it because they've had a hard-on for Iran forever, and they can't do it themselves, obviously, or else they would have been tried to. They know the only way to basically topple the regime over there is to get the Americans in, not just let's bomb a couple of facilities. No, boots on the ground, US troops, an invasion of Iran. And make no mistake, guys, Iraq was a disaster. 20 years of Afghanistan, trillions of dollars poured in. That will look like a cakewalk compared to what would happen in Iran if we tried to do that. It would be an utter disaster. And that's before you even get into, all right, let's just say they topple the regime in Iran. They topple the Islamist regime over there. What do they think is gonna replace it? Do they think there's some ready-made Israel and America loving constituency just chilling that has goodwill from the actual people in Iran, that has some political sway, that's just ready-made to step in? No, it's gonna be people that hate you even more. And it's gonna further destabilize the region.
Just take a look at what has happened in Syria following the toppling of Bashar al-Assad.
Oh, it's great. The moderate rebels, Anna.
Well, okay, so pause on that, because Let me just reiterate, obviously, Bashar al-Assad was a dictator. He was terrible. I'm not in any way trying to launder Assad's reputation. However, there was a reason why Israel backed the rebels who wanted to topple Bashar al-Assad. There was a reason why the United States even aided the rebels in that case. And now you have a situation in which, the media likes to launder the current, replacement regime in Syria as moderate. They're not moderate. I mean, there's like slaughter of Alawite Christians in the coast of Syria. I mean, it's ridiculous to say that they're moderate, but that's what happens, right? You topple a regime, don't make the assumption that they will be replaced with like democracy-loving, peace-loving individuals or a peace-loving regime, because that's usually not the case. We've seen that happen in Libya as well. Now, let's get to Tucker Carlson, because he disagrees entirely with Sean Hannity and the direction that the Trump administration is going in, writing that it's worth pointing out that a strike on the Iranian nuclear sites will almost certainly result in thousands of American deaths at bases throughout the Middle East and cost the United States tens of billions of dollars. The cost of future acts of terrorism on American soil may be even higher. Those aren't guesses. Those are the Pentagon's own estimates. A bombing campaign against Iran will set off a war, and it will be America's war. Don't let the propagandists lie to you. Now, look, oftentimes when Tucker Carlson says something I agree with, I'm very hesitant and suspicious of his motives. In this case, I'm not. I think he means it. And I think he has a legitimate concern here, a concern that I share. And, previously I would think that Tucker Carlson has some sway over the Trump administration. But Tucker, Trump knows who paid for his campaign. Okay. And so hundreds of millions of dollars from the Adelsons is going to have more sway over Trump as opposed to what Tucker Carlson, wants in this scenario. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying for the American people, for what's about to transpire in the Middle East, potentially destabilizing the entire region, again, on behalf of a foreign government that has no interest in peace, but has an interest in domination over that entire region. And of course, I'm talking about Israel here. Any final thoughts, Waz, before we go?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know that there are counter voices within the administration. They getting killed in places like Jewish affairs, et cetera, et cetera. Like they're getting smoked. The ferocity of the Israel lobby online on Twitter, which is, unfortunately for Trump and his regime, that's where the conservative influencers live. And so like these people are well organized and they will kill you. They're calling Tucker Carlson like a Qatari propagandist or something like that. He is
Tucker
in the
Carlson.
pocket of a foreign government, mind you. And again, like you don't even have to go. It's like you work on behalf of Israel, though. Like it's crazy. These voices do exist within the Trump administration. I think JD Vance has some level of credibility as being like this anti-war realist, sort of, more dovish, especially in terms of the Middle East. Need to pivot to Asia. China's the real big bad. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Those voices exist. Boy, they are not ascendant. They are getting killed right now. The neocons are having a field day. And the craziest thing, and this is the saddest part about it, this is going to tank Trump's popularity. It's going to tank the Republicans' popularity if they go through with this. And it's sad, like this level of carnage and destruction is like kind of the only thing.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.